Welcome to the Academy of Photography. I vote for Pedro. I'm Christian Tudor, and today I would like to talk to people wishing to turn wedding photography into a business. Why do I want to talk about that? Because I've been there, I've done that, and I would like to share a bit of my experience with you. Before you even attempt to do a photography business plan, I would suggest you do a little bit of market research. So a market analysis is the absolute first step that you need to do in order to understand what you get yourself into. Wedding photography is not as easy as just taking the camera and shooting during the weekend one of the friends' weddings. It's a totally different ball game, and you need to be prepared for it. Before you understand the complexity of the wedding photography market, you need to do a little bit of research and a little bit of homework, and you need to find out the answers for yourself. 3 questions: how many weddings are in your area? What is the value of a wedding that people are willing to pay you to do it? And how many other photographers? That's basically a little bit of competition study. So if you find out the answers to these questions, that means you should be able to understand what sort of the business you can get. Starting with the first question: how many weddings are in your area? In my case, I just found the information available. It's a public information. It was on a website, a statistics website, or if you don't find something like that in your country, I'm pretty sure you can make a phone call to the office of birth and marriages or whatever you have, and find out how many people are getting married in a year. As simple as that. In my case, I was happy to discover there are 40,000 weddings in a year. Okay, I picked a calculator and I'm gonna go 40,000 weddings in a year divided by, let's say, roughly 50 weeks in a year. I'm not gonna count 52, let's round it up. Means 800 weddings in a week. Well, that's good news, because there will be 800 parties every week in your area. Now comes the more difficult bit. From these 800, I can tell from my own experience that not all of them will employ a photographer. I would say probably a quarter don't even bother speaking to a photographer. I have discovered over the year that there's plenty of older couples or second-time marriages are not really interested in hiring a photographer. So just from the beginning, I would rule 25% out. So from 800, I would actually take out 200. So that's another 600 weddings in a week left to consider. After many years of experience, I have discovered that there's another percentage that do not wish to employ a photographer because they believe Uncle Bill has a DSLR camera and they're gonna ask Uncle Bill to take photos of their wedding. They are more than happy for people to take snapshots with their iPhones on the wedding. So I would rule another 200 out. So that leaves us with 400. So I'm talking about 50% are ruled out from the beginning. So in reality, you should count on only 50% of the weddings in your area, because 50% of them are not gonna employ you as a photographer from the start. Now it's time for the second question: is what sort of value the remaining 50% are willing to pay. I have done a little bit of chart. I have done a small drawing for you to understand, and I'm gonna move on and I'm gonna comment on the drawing. Okay, I moved to my drawing board because I wanted to share with you my personal analysis on the remaining 50%. So going back to the calculation, 40,000 weddings in a year means 800 weddings a week. And that means I ruled out 50% of that. That leaves us with 400 weddings a week. This is my 400 couples getting married in a week. And I can tell you from now, they are spread from people who would pay 0, but they're still gonna want to employ a photographer, not really 0, but you know what I'm talking about, up to the people willing to pay more than $5,000. Now, all these numbers are not necessarily applicable to your area. You might talk a different value, it's a different market, a different currency. This is just for illustration purposes for you to understand how you should do your market analysis in your area. The most of the people are not willing to pay a lot of money because the human mindset is focused on saving. Most of the people want to save and they will try to get the cheapest photographers possible. So these people will sit somewhere in between. I put this threshold again, these are relative numbers, they should relate to your area. Now we've got another set of people willing to pay between $1,000 and $2,000, and probably this is the bulk of it. A normal fee for a wedding, and most of the professional and busy photographers will be in that sort of area. So if you want to turn this into your business, you should be at least in this part, because this is where you can have a lot of clients for this value, and that can become a serious business. Now, going upwards above $2,000, I can tell you they're starting to get less and less and less. Now, if you are on over $2,000 mark, you are really talking about, you know, probably not even a quarter are willing to pay $2,000. And if you want to go here, $5,000, if I'm counting 400 people, I would probably estimate, you know, from 1 to 10 couples willing to pay that sort of money. This is high end of the market. These people are buying a name, they are not buying a service. So these guys are not employing you as a photographer, they're employing a specific photographer, not for the services, but for the name. So if you're consistent enough, diligent enough, and you're trying hard and you do a lot of work, if you are reaching this area, it should be the goal of any successful wedding photographer. If you are trying as a business, you will be probably in this area. Still a good business, but not necessarily the best one, but everyone is trying to get here. Just remember, from this line above, we are talking about 50 couples a week. Okay? So, unless you want to put yourself into the 50 top wedding photographers in your area, it's very difficult to achieve. Think about it, these guys, these photographers are doing this for 5-10 years, they have a lot of experience, but there's always room for someone new. So this is up to you if you want to get there, and how you do it, it's going to take some years. But the safety zone is here between $1,000 and $2,000. So if you're here, you should call yourself a wedding photographer, and you should target to go above this. Now sometimes you can go above or below the $2,000 mark, but I think this pyramid is reflecting the reality as I see it. This pyramid, it's like the food pyramid. You eat chocolate here and you eat a lot of bread here. And now I would like to move to my computer, and we're gonna talk about the third question. Where is your competition? How many people you have to compete with in order to get above this line? Alright, I just moved on to my computer, so I'm going to show you how you should study your competition. Basically what you need to do, you go in Google and you type wedding photography in your area. It's very important to pinpoint your area, because if you don't, you're going to get to a different location, and you don't want that, obviously. In my case, Sydney. And I'm going to go to maps. Now all the photographers are already here, the smart ones and the ones who have businesses registered, they're already in Google, so we have a pretty good understanding about their distribution, about their number. I'm just gonna increase that a little bit. I think that's good enough. Now all these little red dots, they are basically businesses who registered in Google. Again, as any professional photographer, you need to register in Google because you have your presence. Now people are using all sorts of apps these days and all sorts of searching methods, and this is one of them. So looking here, I see a lot of dots. I don't believe there are 400, but I believe there are about 200. I'm gonna guesstimate. As mentioned before, in my area, 800 weddings in a week, but realistically speaking, we are talking about only 400. And the good news is, look at that, I don't think all these dots are 400. However, these are not necessarily all your competition, because there will be people who did not register and they still go for the market. There are still freelancers who do not understand that Google is the best tool to use, and there's still a lot of out there which are not marked. And there's also the other category which are not marked, which are the amateurs, but I do not believe you need to fear about them, because they're gonna go for cheapies, and you do not want to talk about with people paying less than $1,000 for a full day wedding. Anyway, that should give you the tool to map your area and to understand what you're going against. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'm gonna go back and speak to you soon. Hoping that you got a few tips today. I would suggest you do your own homework, and because my numbers are not necessarily relevant to your business, but I believe I gave you food for thought. And if you find any inspiration, give us a thumb up, or don't forget to subscribe. And until I see you next time, I wish you happy shooting. Thank you very much.